Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. National Championships weekend has drawn to an end. It's over now, only Greece is left this season. We've had a couple of great races in this episode of the Cyclocross Social podcast. Issam and I will be going over all the results, but we'll center around the three most important ones: Belgium, Netherlands, UK, and probably France and Italy. Will get some honorable mentions there as well before we go over the rest. Issam, it's going to be a long one. Thank you for being here.
Yes, no worries, and thank you for having me.
It's always a special weekend, National Championships weekend. There is so much going on, but in recent years, the Belgian Championships have been the most prestigious. So let's start with that. The men raced today on Sunday. It was cold. There was snow during the men's U23 race and all morning. Didn't stick on the ground, but there was a lot of mud. It was cold, very cold. The race before it started was wide open. All the favorites, or people who should be considered a contender, had something. There was some remark behind their name, whether it was illness, whether it was dehydration, whether it was inconsistency, whether it was a lack of experience. Everybody had something, and most people didn't want the top favorite role. We could see that in the first two laps of the race, as there was a leading pack of 10 riders, but from those 10, it became clear that there were 4 that were slightly stronger than the rest. That was the Paul Sauser duo, Michael van Toerenhout, the defending champion, together with Iserbyt. They were joined up front by Thibaut Nys and Joran Wieseuren. This went back and forth a couple of times. There were a couple of small attacks, a couple of times that the chasing group got back or almost got back, but these 4 were stronger than the rest. Big attack came in just after the halfway point of the race, 35-40 minutes into the race, when Iserbyt placed a big attack. He pushed on the big hills in the beginning of the course and opened the gap on Wieseuren, who was in second. Nys was in fourth, needed to pass Wieseuren and Van Toerenhout before he got onto the wheel of Iserbyt. Nys did what he could, but made a couple of mistakes on a couple of crucial sections and fell back. From there, nobody came close to Iserbyt anymore, and Iserbyt went on to take his first elite national title. Second place, that did not go to Thibaut Nys. After he was with Iserbyt for a while, he fell back. He fell into the hands of Wieseuren and Van Toerenhout, who also rapidly left him behind. Nys would drop all the way down to 6th as he was crawling in the final lap. In that final lap, Wieseuren was stronger than Van Toerenhout, and the young rider from Crelan-Corendon powered away in the sandpit even from Michael van Toerenhout on his way to a silver medal. Van Toerenhout claimed bronze. Issam, I think Michael van Toerenhout's uncle, Sven van Toerenhout, the Belgian national team coach, said it very well after the race. This was a race where nobody wanted to be the favorite. There were people saying they'd been sick before. I mean, we had Zweek saying he was sick in the Christmas period. Iserbyt had a story there. Nys had a story about fitness. Everybody had something. Nobody really wanted the favorite role. But if 2 weeks ago we would have asked somebody who is your top favorite for the Belgian Championship, almost everybody would have said Iserbyt. He's the only one consistently up there. The past 2 weeks caused a bit of confusion around the state of Iserbyt. We can debate long or short about that, but I don't think it's worth it. Ultimately, Iserbyt is a worthy champion whether you like him or not. He has been the best Belgian rider over the championship. He was the best rider on the day. He deserved that title, and I thought it was really interesting what he said in his post-race interview, that from the 30-minute mark onwards, he felt like he was in a groove, in a zone, like everything was blacked out around him. He said, the only thing I was thinking about was choosing my lines, perfectioning everything. That was the only thing I was thinking about. I couldn't hear anything. It was me, my bike, and my thoughts, and I just went to victory. He said he was in his zone, had his day. That's what it's all about at the championship, a deserved champion.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't know if having your day was the only factor today. I think that, like you said, this is basically what we have seen so far this season. If you look at the strengths of all the riders, Iserbyt was, in my opinion, the strongest Belgian rider this season so far. And I think what is interesting to see with Iserbyt was on every course, every type of circumstances that we had, he was doing quite well compared to others that struggled in certain conditions and were not so consistent over the course of this season so far. And I've said it before, I saw Iserbyt always as the main guy for this championship, but it was definitely difficult to guess where he would be at with everything that was happening. And like Van Toornhout said, it was just so difficult, and we got a little confused. I wouldn't even call it confused, but just with the information that we had, it was very hard to guess who was going to be at their best shape on that day. And I'm very happy for Iserbyt, to be honest, because I think that he really deserved this recognition of just being, the best Belgian rider at the moment, and I think he truly is that. Obviously, you have to take into account that Van Aert didn't start and all that, but regardless of that, I think that he definitely deserved this title, and it's important for his career, because I think that he needs these kind of races, that he needs to take these titles, because if you do not do that, you will always get that story of the Iserbyt that flops on such a day. And it was even after the race, it was mentioned in the interviews on his not so successful races that he had before this. So great to see that he was able to pull it off. It was a strong race from him, and he was in control, in my opinion, from the start of the race, because he tried it in the beginning to put the pace on with Van de Putte, who, couldn't really maintain that over the course of the race. But for Iserbyt, I don't think there was a certain moment where he really panicked. When he was at the front, he made sure that he was going to stay at the front, and yeah, very strong ride.
Iserbyt now is a lot more mature than he was a couple of seasons ago. Iserbyt as a U23, first years as a lead, was very wild. He made ludicrous statements in the media, and he did give some of the salt and pepper which cyclocross is known for. But he was out of line, especially with the results he had. He couldn't really back up the comments he made. That's completely changed now, and you do indeed still have like the story of Iserbyt always chokes at championships. You had them after Europeans this year, but today he was there, and on this type of course it just requires a lot of power and just the complete package. You need to be able to run, you need to be able to put out the power, you need to be able to ride up a hill, you need to be able to make the right decisions. The mud also made the sand a bit more important. They were riding on the Rhino tire thread. That makes the sand pit a bit harder. It wasn't the hardest sand pit, but with the low speed of entrance, and that played a role. Iserbyt did that very well. Cold conditions, something Iserbyt was not exactly known for to be well in until now, especially because of those races in BLS and Namur, in both which he needed to withdraw from the race, being... he had hypothermia there. So he said now today something that he had a lot of heating pads in his shoes and in his pants even, just to make sure he's warm, because he says he still struggles with the cold. But everything just came together for him on this day. It was a mature, composed ride, and I can only take my hat off for that, to keep it together in such a way. And the mist before, I feel this year it's a bit more. I mean, it's always present before the Belgian championships. They try and create some mist. And I don't want to have the favorites role, but yeah, this year it felt like a bit more extreme. The fact that everybody was all of a sudden bombing Joran Viseur to top favorite, and we'll talk about his great performance in a bit, said enough. Joran Viseur today surprised with a second place, but the fact that there was so much mist that this surprise was not really a surprise, because everybody had tipped him as a clear favorite here, also says something. Maybe that mist all went into that snowstorm of this morning, and once that settled down, Iserbyt took the victory in ice-cold fashion.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that it was that the media was also trying to find someone that was willing to take the role. I think Laurens Sveek was definitely not shy of saying that he was wants to watch for this race, but couldn't really fulfill this that ambition. But for Viseur, it was like we were watching him race at Dublin in a way. I think that it was a very strong ride, and it is not for this year that he's going to win a title, but how it looks, it was definitely very good. And this is definitely for him as well a very important race, the way he rode it. And I think he realized that as well when he crossed the line, that these are the results that people will kind of remember. And even if it's for second place, it's just, it will stick in the memories, and it's just important for the sponsors and for your future as well. I mean, he wasn't definitely in a situation where it was life or death for his contract. I think he has everything kind of settled, but still, it's something these are the races that you kind of need to build a name for yourself, and he definitely did that today, and he has been doing so far several races this season, and it is going very well, and I feel that if you look at the guys around his age, he's definitely the one that made the biggest step forward in the Belgian squad. So, a job very well done.
Yeah, it was impressive. These are the conditions in which Johan Viseur does do well. Nevertheless, it's impressive to be up there. I don't think we could have expected much more from him to try and fight Elie Iserbyt. Because what else should he have done? He tried what he could. In the beginning of the race, all of a sudden he was like in the lead together with Thibaut Nys for a while. He was catapulted up front. Maybe he got a little bit too excited there, but I can't really hold it against him. And it's not a big tactical error, like he kept pushing for laps. Once he was in that leading group of 4, he positioned himself well in second position. That's where Thibaut Nys should have been, but Viseur did it. He made sure there were no team tactics being played against him, and when Iserbyt went, he just couldn't respond, and that's completely fine. I do think that Nys made a couple of mistakes today. He didn't execute perfectly today. He was up there for a while. I respect his all-or-nothing attitude today. He threw everything he had at Iserbyt in the hope of winning that title. But a couple of things didn't go right for him. First of all, the start. I don't really blame that. The start here was super weird. It was on the athletics track, but not one of AstroTurf. No, one of a weird mixture of gravel with sand, which made it super muddy. If you're starting on the right-hand side, you had the inside line on the corner, and it was harder there. It was packed there. You could ride. If you were in the middle, and Thibaut Nys was in the middle, he didn't have another choice because of his starting call-up. He was in like this hard, basically just muddy pack, and obviously you're going to be swallowed by the riders who are either all the way on the inside or all the way on the outside, where it's more packed and they will come flying around you. Took him a while to get back up front, and then his main bottleneck today was the corner before pit 1. He could not master that to save his life. He made mistakes there almost every single lap, which cost him 5, 6, 7, in the most extreme case, even 9 seconds on that single straight past pit 1. Then later there was this section with the sand pit, then they went to the stairs, and then they came to the washboard. That's another section which he didn't master. There were a couple of other sections on the course where he was really strong. This weird widest section with the trees alongside it, the corner before there with where they went underneath the bridge with the metal plate there. He was one of the first ones to draw his own line there and ride it. The rest copied that. Those were good sections for him, but the sections that he didn't master cost him too much. He was also in 4th position of that group too long, which cost him too much energy. I don't think that this would have made the difference for him to win. Nys himself said, I did not have the best day. I just wanted to see what I could do. I wanted to try and win. I respect that attitude, that he then ends 6th. It doesn't really matter to him if he's 3rd like last year or 6th now. You can debate whether that's the right attitude to have. I think ultimately the form also isn't really there. There's some signs of improvement compared to where he came from. We've learned that in Baal he had 3 punctures, in Zonhoven he had 2 punctures. There's some improvements there. He's better than what he was around Flamanville. Maybe he can become a little bit better when he goes back to Spain tomorrow. But yeah, ultimately I think it just wasn't meant to be today for him.
No, I mean, as you said, there were some moments in the race that kind of cost him some time and energy, but I think overall he just didn't have it to battle it for the podium today. And in the end, it is not a huge surprise. I think that you can definitely see in his form that it's something that looks more and more promising, and I feel that if you look for him in terms of what is coming next with the World Championships, that could be a very good race for him, and that's definitely a race where you want to show yourself, I guess. So I think for him that might come out quite well. But today for the title it was not there, and I think also for the podium it was just, he fell just a little short. And when you see that the podium is not really possible at that point, it's very hard to kind of motivate yourself, and especially if you already went in with that mentality of all or nothing, then you kind of end up in that nothing scenario, and then in the last lap he really let it go, and there was not much left as well. So yeah, not really his day, but I think there are still going to be many championships where he will be able to battle it out, maybe for titles. So I think that there is not much to worry for him, and you can take the positives and try to work towards the next goal, which is kind of the Worlds.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's been a season of ups and downs, and maybe more downs than ups, but Let's look at the entire top 10. Iserbyt won ahead of Viseur and Van Toerenhout. There was a story that Van Toerenhout had a stomach flu this week, that he couldn't eat for 2-3 days. Don't really know what to make of it. It was a decent ride, but pretty much in line with this season, which actually is my conclusion for the entire top 10, because if we look further, Van der Putten was 4th, Adams was 5th, Nijs 6th, Van der Bos 7th, Laurens Zweek 8th, Quinten Hermans 9th, and Landerlooks 10th. It's kind of reflecting of what we've seen this season. Van Toerenhout and Zweek struggling, not there when it matters most of the time. I mean, they have a couple of highs, and most of the time it's like this. That leaves options for riders like Viseur or Van der Putten to have a couple of highs like they had today with a 2nd and a 4th. Adams 5th, hopefully this secures him a world selection. And then there's a couple of riders like Nijs who are sometimes up there, fade during the race, and eventually end kind of where they belong. I think for the rest it was not really that much interesting, apart from Johnny Vermeers, who'd been hyped up all week by people that he could become Belgian title, just for him to disappear from the race at the end of the 2nd lap. Then on to the women's race in Belgium, the women elite, which was combined with U23. That took place on Saturday. Conditions in Molenbeek were already bad. They were a bit warmer, but the course was fairly muddy. Fleur Moors had the fastest start to that race, but Sanne Cant quickly took the lead in the first lap. Laura Verdonschot, tipped as the challenger, crashed in one of the corners, which gave Cant a gap. Was that game over? No, because Verdonschot came back together with Ribeyrolles. We had 3 leaders, but Sanne Cant in the 2nd lap was showing that she had a skill which the others didn't possess. She was able to ride a couple of big hills in the first part of the course. She powered up the first one, opened a gap, and then tried to ride the second one, but got tangled in the course tape, which allowed Verdonschot to come back. That, however, didn't last long. Cant opened the gap again, and this time it looked to be settled. She opened a 20-second lead over Verdonschot, who had dropped Ribeyrolles. Ribeyrolles crashed a couple of times. It was not her day. She fell further back. Verdonschot was 20 seconds behind. Everything looked set in stone. Cant 15 titles in a row. But then when she was on just a straight, she got into a bad rut in the penultimate lap and crashed over the course tape. And it took some time for her to get the going again. By the time she was on her bike, Verdonschot had passed her, but Cant was right in the wheel. Verdonschot seemed unsure what to do in the final lap, because she didn't really take any action. She didn't attack when she called Cant. She was deers in headlight, basically. Cant attacked in the final lap up the big hill, powered to the top again, opened the gap, but then Verdonschot came back just as they reached pit 2. Verdonschot looked to be ready to pose a challenge, but the pit box allocation was crucial. Verdonschot was all the way at the beginning of the pits, Cant was at the end. Cant could ride all the way to her pit box. Verdonschot had to run that entire part of the pit zone because of her bike change. That gave Cant another 3-second gap, but Verdonschot again closed it. Verdonschot, however, took the lead and allowed Cant to sit in the wheel for a bit. Verdonschot placed an attack out of the final sandpit without any effect. It came down to a sprint, and before the bridge, Cant took the lead, took the turn onto the athletics course first, and sprinted to victory ahead of a disappointed Verdonschot, with Ribeyrolles ending 3rd. That race was some thriller, Issam. Was a lot going on there. I just described what happened there in the final, and I already gave away my take on it. Verdonschot, during the broadcast, they said that she and their coach Rob Peters went through a dozen of scenarios of what to do in the race, but it seemed like they had forgotten to go through the scenario what would happen if she actually was in a final lap with Sanne Cant, because she didn't try and take the lead before they went up the big climb. Once she caught up to Cant, she seemed without a plan. She didn't really have a clear idea of when to attack, what to do. With this type of sprint, even if you're slower, you can try and do your best by going out first, because the start-finish straight is super short. She got passed easily by Cant, didn't defend her position, didn't try an audacious dive bomb, and then just basically got herself ridden to the finish where she needed to end second. It was like she was in the back seat of a cab driving around Molenbeek without any idea of where she was going.
It really was, the last lap for me was a thriller. There was quite a lot of tension, I have to say. And a really good race overall. I think that Kant made it a little bit more difficult for her than it should have been, because I think that the moment that she rode away from Verdonschot was definitely crucial, and in my opinion could have been also the final attack, and that would have secured her the win. But then the mistake obviously with the crash, and then you have to recover from it. Verdonschot comes back, and then there is some hope again. And I think that, as you said, it really looked like Verdonschot didn't think that scenario through of what if we are in a last lap and we have to battle it out. And I think that even after the fact that Kant passed her, there was till the last corner some moments where you definitely could have made it a little bit more difficult and pass Kant again. I think that Kant left, especially on that last corner before you go on the piste in a way, there was so much room for Verdonschot and so much time as well, because the pace definitely dropped there before that corner. Put it there on the inside, dive and make sure that it wasn't even going to be a tricky move. It was basically you have to place your bike there, and that was all that was needed in a way. And yeah, then after that you cannot really make a sprint because it was so bad, the conditions there, and you could barely really get the power going. You cannot even call that a sprint in a way. It was basically pacing yourself to the finish line and give it your all and just hope that you don't make a mistake. And yeah, it was a very strong ride from Kant. Deserved winner for sure, but for Verdonschot definitely, I think that she will think about this a couple of times in the future. And I think that in the interview as well, she gave a very good point, and which is, Kant kind of announced after or even before the race that this could have been her, or this is most likely her last national championship that she will ride, and next year she won't be attending it. And basically also for Verdonschot the last time that she could have been winning against Kant, and I think the chances were definitely there if you look at the scenario of the race, but it was not meant to be. Kant got her 15th one, and I think there is, we just have to massive respect for that achievement. And yeah, she has meant a lot for Belgium cyclocross, and especially for the women's side. And yeah, it was for her, very deserved victory, and interesting to see what she will do from now and how she will fill in the rest of her career in a way.
Yeah, Kant announced that she will be retiring after next cyclocross season, but that out of respect for the Belgian jersey, she wouldn't want to win it and then have the jersey not be on display an entire season, which I think says you something about how Kant feels about it and about the jersey. It means a lot to her, and she's pretty proud of her country. I think Verdonschot just made two crucial mistakes. First of all, she should have tried to make that steep climb in the first part of the course first. Try and block Kant there. You avoid an attack there. Maybe you can attack later on in the lap. And then especially like this super long straight before the bridge, which leads you to the off-camber. You mentioned she could have overtaken on the off-camber. She could have tried an overtake on the second corner of the bridge. Or she could have actually started pacing, making it harder for Kant to place the acceleration and pass her. But nevertheless, despite the fact that Verdonschot did everything she could to make Kant win a 15th title in the final lap, Kant deserved that 15th title. Kant was stronger. There was a lot of talk in the Belgian broadcast about Grippo tires and Verdonschot messing up tire choices. Kant started on the Grippo tire. Verdonschot started on the Grifo but switched to Rhinos in the second lap. Done deal. Their tires didn't make a choice. The reason that Kant could ride up that first climb and that there was this other corner where she was riding a wide line and going up where Verdonschot was running on the inside, which lost her 2 seconds every lap. The reasons for that is Kant had more power, she was stronger. Kant is more experienced in reading the course and riding the wider lines. Kant was just better. She should have won by 45 seconds if it wasn't for that silly crash because of a bad rut. That's racing. It was her own fault of going there. She got tangled in the course tape on another part. She was riding with a lot of risk, but that's fine. It's racing and she won it. And yeah, as you say, Issam, 15 titles. I always get a bit sad by the way she's treated in the Belgian media. Kant is an icon of the sport. She's one of the greatest cyclocross riders ever. 3 world titles. Take a bow to that. I mean, especially that world title in Valkenburg. That was special. Her titles in BLS and Bogens in the Netherlands, they are seen as stolen titles. She had no right to win them, but she won them, and that then makes it irrelevant how you won them. She's the 3-time world champion. I'm 20 years, Issam, 20 years old. Cant has been Belgian champion for 75% of my life. Ever since I started watching cyclocross, which was in 2012, Sanne Cant has been rocking around in a champion's jersey. Was it Belgian champion, then European champion, Belgian champion again, world title, back to the Belgian jersey. She's a true icon of the sport, and then it makes me a bit sad that so many of the Belgian media, spectators, they're out on having that streak ended. And I felt like yesterday when she announced that she will be retiring after last season, there was a bit of a turning point in there, mainly coming from Sven van Toerenhout. And of course, he's like the national team coach, so it's also his job to relativate things like that. But a bit of a turning point there, and that they're seeing like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be too harsh on her. Sure, Sanne Cant has been surpassed by a more talented generation, but that doesn't mean that we need to write her into the ground. We need to respect her career, and she's an icon of the sport, and I hope she will have a fitting retirement last year with another season like this, because yes, the past seasons haven't been good, and you can criticize her for that, but at the same time, she's still the best rider of Belgium, so the retirement isn't exactly calling. It's not like she's continuing too long.
No, I think that it is, it's always difficult to know when you have to end your career in a way. And I think that for her, it's maybe the right decision. She has, as I said, meant a lot for the sport. And you definitely want to win kind of on your high. And there is always this urge of trying to add a couple more years to your career. But, how many times have we seen riders stay a little too long and try to go for that last paycheck and all that? I think that Cant is definitely not the type of rider that would do something like that, and is always with this competitive mindset and wants to achieve the best. And I think that is also that's just the winning of being the best, while it was deemed kind of impossible in a way. I think that was definitely that determined a little bit how her career went. And it's just it's great to see that she was able to win and get that record, and a job well done for her career. And there is still some left in her, so looking forward to see what she can do next year.
Behind Cant and Verdonschot, Ribeyrolles ended third. Was a decent ride by Ribeyrolles. I thought she looked very strong in the first lap. For a brief moment, I thought she would be the one challenging Cant, but Ribeyrolles didn't have it. She made a couple of mistakes and wasn't fit enough. She's been sick as well, apparently, in the lead up to this event, so she needed to settle for third, and unlike last year, she was satisfied with not taking the win. If we look at the entire top 10, I don't think there's all too much to talk about here. Cant won ahead of Verdonschot and Ribeyrolles. Impressive fourth place by Fleur Moors, but on the other hand, if you look at the competition, it's not that much. She's just ahead of Laura de Schepper, another first-year U23. The field really isn't that deep at Belgian championships. Laura de Schepper was the U23 champion because Belgium has this weird rule that if you're racing for a World Tour or Women's World Tour team on the road, you're not allowed to compete for the U23 title. Very weird, very variations of that rule there and changing it around. But anyway, it is what it is. Laura de Schepper became Belgian U23 champion by ending 5th. Jinse Peters was 6th, Giona Grabé 7th, Julie Brouwers 8th, Xaide van Sinai 9th, and Marten Truijen ended 10th. Enough on Belgium, we hop across the border to Hogeveen, where the Dutch National Championships took place. That ended in a Baloise Trek Lions party. We had hoped for maybe some close races, especially on the men's side, between Ronhaar, Van der Haar and Nieuwenhuis, but that race was not close at all. Early on in the race, Nieuwenhuis and Ronhaar opened the gap on Van der Haar. Van der Haar was an island in third for the entire race. He also ended there. Nieuwenhuis led just like last year in Zaltbommel, but this year he didn't break his cleat, and ultimately his high pace caused Ronhaar to make a couple of mistakes. Nieuwenhuis went solo and took his first national title ahead of his teammates Ronhaar and Van der Haar. Issam, I don't really have all too much to say about Dutch nationals. The course was nice. Jens Dekker built it. I think he did a really good job. It looked fairly technical, but I think it wasn't that technical. With the mud that there was, I think it was just an out-and-out power course, quite a bit of running as well. Weather conditions there were fairly bad. There was some rain, there was a bit of wind. It just came down to who had the most power. That was Nieuwenhuis, and I don't think it's that much of a surprise either, based on how things have been going in December and January.
No, indeed. I think it was a very honest course, and maybe even a little too honest in a way, because I would have loved a little bit more racing for the title, but it ended up in such a way. And yeah, like you said, Nieuwenhuis was definitely the one that came into this race with probably the best form in a way, and also if you look at the previous races, looked in my opinion the best. But Ronhaar, with the youth behind him and also looking very good in various races, there was always that possibility. And obviously I never really thought that Van der Haar wouldn't play a role in this championship. So it looked like it was going to be like a three-way battle in a way, but that wasn't really the case. And I think that Nieuwenhuis, the change that he made and the decision that he made to then eventually race for Baloise Trek Lions, it's great to see him get rewarded with a title. I think he definitely deserves it, and it has been going quite well for him this season. So it's great to see, and I think he also got a course that just with the circumstances definitely suited him very well, and a very deserved champion. And I think for Ronhaar, it's maybe just a little too early, as similar to Nice, but I think just with a different kind of view to it, because he was eventually second and had a very good race. And so yeah, I think that the championship played out in quite a dull manner, but a very deserved champion for sure.
Yeah, maybe Ronhaar could have been able to go a bit longer with Nieuwenhuis if he hadn't made a couple of mistakes. I think we also saw Van der Haar make a couple of mistakes. Ronhaar made one just before the entrance of pit 1 and just a few too many. And that's okay. I think Ronhaar had his high, at least in terms of relative form to the rest, when he won Dendermonde in that period of the season. He's not been bad. He's been pretty consistent, which deserves a round of applause, especially considering how he started this season, how he's done last season. But it just wasn't to be, and for Van der Haar, his form is not at his highest this moment. I'm interested to see how he will be at Worlds. I don't know. Course there could be good. Conditions there today were fast. That's something more for Van der Haar than this slugfest here. But yeah, it was just a matter of who had the most power, and those results came out. As discussed, the top 3 was Nieuwenhuis, Ronhaar, Van der Haar. Behind that we found Ryan Kamp, who found a couple of extra sponsors. No black jersey for him anymore. Looks like Phoenix had some kits left from their Strade Bianche appeal, what they also raced in the Giro with. But Ryan Kamp is now sponsored by Phoenix, Ale, CD, couple of Italian sponsors there. I'm kind of feeling that they will sign Ryan Kamp, the Rothhoff brothers, to one of their teams when the season ends. Don't think they'll extend Mees Hendricks. So I'm thinking that Kamp today ended ahead of Mees Hendricks, 5th place, and the result of the combined race, because they scrapped the U23s out of them and put them in a separate result. But the 5th place there was for Tiro del Grosso, who took the U23 title. 6 was Mees Hendricks, 7 Corné van Kessel, 8 Bailey Groenendaal, 9 Danny van Lierop, 10 Lucas Jansen. I think we can go to the women's race with that. There, it was also not that interesting. Pieterse had the fastest start and led, but she made a mistake halfway through the first lap. Lucinda Brandt took over, opened a 3-second gap. Pieterse could never really close it. Went to 5, back to 3, 7, back to 5, but then it snapped for Pieterse, and Brandt, who broke her nose last week in Zonhoven, went on to take the title ahead of Pieterse. Alvarado, who skipped Zonhoven, still had back pains. This is definitely not a championship made-up injury. Alvarado really suffering visibly on the bike. Ended 4th. 3rd place went to Annemarie Worst. Issam, again here, not really that much to say. I think maybe we'd expected a bit more from Pieterse. The course looked fairly technical, as said, but it was really a power thing, and power-wise Brandt was better. Brandt seemed to have a very good day, and especially with that running, there are few women who run better than Lucinda Brandt.
Yeah, I have to say that I was a bit surprised with Brandt actually participating, because normally a broken nose, I'm no doctor, but it takes some time, and it's also quite irritating with the swelling sometimes. So that was a very good to see, and also maybe a sign of someone that kind of recovered from it and was able to race 100%, and she showed it in the race. And as you said, I think that she got a course that just fits her very well, and she was able to, use that power to her advantage. And Pieterse, even though the course definitely suits Brandt better, I would have expected Pieterse to hang on a little longer. But yeah, at a certain point, I think that when the gap was just growing more and more, it was for her just difficult to fight back in a way, and it was in a way surprising, but also you can kind of expect it on a course like this. So it was also quite a dull championship race in a way, but definitely a deserved winner, and great to see that Brandt was able to get that title. And I don't think that she will get many more chances. It's not saying that it's her last season or something, but it is probably going to be more and more difficult with the years to come, and I think that it's definitely great to see her get that Dutch championship.
Well, as I said just about Cant has been like an icon of times when I watched cyclocross. I mean, I've been actively watching since 2012. I've rewatched a lot of stuff from before that, and Cant is a rider who, throughout my time of watching cyclocross, is somebody who's like developed a lot. It's not like she's going to retire, but it's a pretty special pathway. In 2016-17 season, she made the decision to focus fully on cyclocross. She even thought about quitting road. Then when Paris-Roubaix for women was announced, she came back on that decision. But her development has been really special to follow. She always had the power, but her technical skills were lacking, and she's made a lot of progression on that aspect. So yeah, it was good to see, and I think today she was stronger. I mean, she said that broken nose didn't influence her at all, and that she was just free to go. It didn't affect her at all. She can breathe normally through her nose. So yeah, I don't know if I was really surprised that she would able to race. I mean, in football, we see a lot of people race with or play with masks to keep their nose in touch when it's broken. So maybe I was not really surprised, but her level here was good, and it was really good to see her go like that. Pieterse just didn't have the answer. I'm not too worried about her form for the rest of the season, but I think for Pieterse, the courses that are coming up, Benidorm, Hoge Heide and Tabor, are all going to be difficult courses if they are dry. If they are dry, they are not technical. She doesn't really have a place where she can use her skill factor. And if that factor isn't really involved on the course, it's difficult. But we saw last week in Zonhoven already that Brandt is really, really, really good at the moment. And it will be interesting to see how she does when she has a clean head-to-head against Fem van Empel on a course like Benidorm. So, yeah, I look forward to that. Worst ended third, some distance down. I think it's a small up for her. Betsema wasn't here. She has a knee injury. But yeah, normally that third place should have been for Alvarado. But I already said it in the summary. Alvarado has back issues and they are lingering. So we can only hope for the best, but it's not looking good. It really, really didn't look good today. If we look at the rest of the top 10, Bakker ended 5th ahead of Van Alphen, Bentveld, Molengraaf, Von Bertworst and Kastelein. Don't think there's all too much to say about those results, apart from maybe Kastelein really being developed into a full road rider now who's just doing cross because it's her passion. I think we can move on to the British National Championships, which took place in Falkirk on Saturday. It was a fast course in a park with a super steep wall in there, a couple of minor climbs around it, nothing too special. I would normally say business as usual with Mason and Kay taking titles as Baxter wasn't there, but it wasn't a walk in the park for Mason because he had a bad start and needed to chase some, but he really shows Issam that he's much better than the level of the riders who mostly race the domestic scene in the UK. He took the win comfortably in the end, despite that, way ahead of Thomas Mean, who put up a decent fight, and those two are really the best British cyclocross riders. They're far ahead of the rest.
Yeah, totally. And I think, as you said, for Mason, it was definitely an expected title, but not the way you would with the start. Definitely did make it a little bit more difficult for himself. But I think in the end, it was everyone kind of came to his place, and Mason was just the better guy, and is also at the moment the one that is next to Pidcock is definitely the best British cyclocross rider. And it's great to see the development that he has made, and he's now riding with Cyclocross Red, so that's definitely a plus in a way with a team that can really support you in cyclocross. And yeah, I think that it was a very deserved title, and probably will add more and more titles in the future, because as of now it seems that Pidcock is not going to show up to these championships, and then it's going to be difficult to see who is coming up. But yeah, for him it's definitely looking good, and it's great to see that he was able to prolong that national title.
Yeah, he's just very well-rounded. I don't think his form is the best, and that start really is an issue. That you're not with the first 10 out of a field of this quality is a bit worrying, but it's something you will need to work on just to complete it. Lewis Askey racing for FDG ended third in this race. It was a pretty impressive performance, and actually nice to see him do a bit more cross this season. Can be very, very short about the women's race. Issam, I won't even be asking you for a question here, because that was a Anna K masterclass TT victory on cruise control. Call it whatever you want, but Baxet is in Spain, potentially even doing an altitude camp. She's doing a training camp, that's for sure. So yeah, without that, Anna K was the big favorite. Imogen Wolf made the switch from the junior category to the elite category for this race. She had already won the junior title. Wolf didn't have it. She was on par with Kay, at least for me, before the race, but Wolf was tired from a big Christmas block, had a bad day, ended further down outside of the top 5 even. And with that, Kay was in control, took the victory. What you would expect. Second place was for Ella McLean-Howell, and star of the day was Grace Inglis, ending third, a rider who was is 28 years old, hasn't raced much, and just basically a local rider showing up for nationals and ending third, which was interesting to see. Let's take a look at some of the other results in Europe. France, the national championships there took place in Camors. It was a typical French course in Bretagne. It was nice to see. I like the courses there. It's always wide, bit of elevation, had a sand pit, had some barriers, had some road, bit of everything. Men's race there came down to a sprint. There was a bit of rain during that race, but despite that, Clément Venturini took the win ahead of Joshua Dubois. That was a sprint. Third place went to Theo Thomas. I think it's I don't know how many titles Venturini has won now, but they're surely adding up. I think it's like his 6th elite title. It's a streak, I think, at least since 2019. Pretty confident about that one, but it's been going well for him. His results in the Belgian races have been a bit below par. Zoller was good, but Venturini, as always, has one goal, and his goal is the World Championships. And for the past 2 years, he's gotten a top 10. He was 5th in Fayetteville, he was 10th in Hogerheide. Venturini is a rider who excels on fast courses, and I think he might be in for a treat, because the Czech Championships took place in Tabor on the World course, which is very smart because it gives a home advantage to the Czech riders who will all have raced it already. But regardless of that, it looked super fast today. Of course, we will need to wait for the conditions, but if they are like today, and there's a reasonable probability they are, Venturini can be in for another top 10, because on a course like that, I wouldn't put it past him.
Definitely within the possibilities, but as good as I know that Tabor is a difficult place overall to guess what the circumstances will be. I mean, it's one day it is going to be dry, the other day it's going to be snowing, and the day after it's going to be raining. So it's tough to say if it's going to be a fast course or not. But at the moment, it looks like it's heading towards that, and if it's going to be a fast course, Venturini definitely has the quality to get himself within a top 10. But yeah, we have to wait and see how that will play out. And I don't know about his form, to be honest. I feel like if you compare it maybe to the last couple of years, I don't know if it's equal or it's maybe a little less, but it's hard to say where he is at the moment, especially if you look at the races that he has done before. Not spectacular, so we have to wait and see. But if he gets a fast course, it's definitely going to suit him very well, and then from there it's top 10 is definitely not something out of reach for him. So that's going to be interesting, and great to see him have the title again.
The women's race in front was won by Helene Clauzel, almost a minute lead over Amandine Foucounet, with Anne Morisson rounding out the podium. No real surprises there. Clauzel has been national champion for a while there as well. In Italy, the men's race was won by Filippo Fontana. It was a relatively close race. Jacob Dorigoni was up there and at second, with Bertolini in third. It's a shame Fontana and Dorigoni don't race a couple of more races, because they are Italy's best riders, and it would be interesting to see what they could do. I do remember Fontana last year did the same as he did this year. He just raced a bunch of Italian races, including the national championships, then showed up to Besançon and Worlds. I don't know if he's doing that again this year, but it will be interesting because I think he can be a rider, not necessarily this year, but in the future, that is able of reaching the top 10s of the Belgian races with the progression he's been making. I mean, Bertolini and Dorigoni have done it before, but the state of Italian cyclocross is a bit of a mystery to me, and I struggle to really get insights on there. The Italians are not where I have most of my sources, but what I do know is that Sara Casasola comfortably won the women's race, and she beat Letizia Borghese and Rebecca Garibaldi there. Casasola will be nice to see her in the champions jersey, Issam taking over from Persico, who didn't do any cross at all this winter.
Yeah, and as it should be, to be honest, because I think that she definitely represented Italy at the front in the women's category. So I wouldn't have liked it if Persico would have shown up to this race and potentially take the title away. So I think that it is good as it is right now, really deserved, and I think it's also good for the representation. If you are the best of your country, you deserve that title as well. And so it's not how it always goes, but it's great to see that it happened. And it's another great moment for her in a season that has been going quite well. So I definitely think that those are just things that you kind of need to, as I said, make a name for yourself. As we have said already with Viseur, you need these kind of races, and they eventually add up to your career, and it makes it easier for you to get potential sponsors and all that. So great from her that she was able to get the victory there in Italy.
I do think it's a shame that Persico didn't do a cross race, but I can't say it's unexpected after joining UAE, a transfer that I'm not really a fan of for a number of reasons, this being one of them. I think it would have been nice to see her do cross. Tabor, the same goes for Vanterini as for her. She could have potentially even been in the mix for a podium if that course was fast, like we saw in Fightville, like we saw in Hoogheide last year. But as you say, Casasola deserved that title, just as Felipe Orts deserved the title in Spain, won by 3 minutes on González Macho. More than 3 minutes, almost 4 even, on Mario San Milan. Suarez Fernandez, Kevin Suarez Fernandez to be precise, unfortunately withdrew from the race. Order also as usual in the women's race, with Lucia González Blanco taking the win ahead of Sofia Rodriguez Rever. Third place there went to Irene Bragado. Then we'll come to those Czech championships, Issam. They took place on the course of Worlds. I thought that was nice to see. It's a nice idea. The course is there. It doesn't have any extra costs for them pretty much to organize this race now. Boros took the title after a relatively close race with Adam Tupalik, rides for Tour de Titema Unibet now. Zdenek Štibar ended third there. The women's race was a walkover. Zemanova took the win there. It was a cruise control victory. She attacked in the first lap and just didn't need to go deep. Noskova ended second, former runner-up at U23 Worlds way back in 2016. Races for Cofidis now, targeting Worlds just because she likes it. And Simona Spenza ended third. First of all, Issam, I think it's nice to see it towered. It gave us a nice look at the course. A couple of things I noticed was a big bridge after the start. They removed the big bottleneck on the first part of the course, and the second loop of the course after the barriers is now being done in reverse. Those were my findings about the course. But the racing was pretty entertaining there. Boros, not an easy win. Tupalik, second. I just said that Noskova is targeting Worlds. I don't know what Tupalik is doing. But that is close to Boros. Boros, who was good in Diegem, in or just outside of the top 10. I wonder what Tupalik will do. I feel like this is a rider that could have had a very good cross career if he focused on it. His moment at Zolder Worlds, where he thought he became U23 title but celebrated a lap too early, are infamous, are legendary. But I feel like if he goes to Worlds, he can dream about ending in the top 10. He seems to have a decent form. Course seems to be well for him. I always hope that he comes back to the cross in a similar way as Vanturini, because both could have had very good cross careers, but are kind of having below average or just average road careers instead.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's unlikely that he will maybe try and get more involved in the cross, and his result is definitely promising. And I think that if he focuses a little bit more on the cyclocross, he's definitely someone that could find himself within the top 10 of regular races. And it's a bit of a shame that he kind of pursued a career on the road. I think obviously everyone is entitled to feel where he's most comfortable at, and obviously there is probably also the money factor, and the whole that obviously plays a role, and you want to go for a sustainable future that will secure yourself for what you're doing at the moment, and also after your career is over. So yeah, it's in a way understandable, but I hope that maybe the love for cyclocross will bring him back a little bit more actively, and he definitely has the potential and the talent that cannot be completely gone. So it's obviously a lot of years that it went over it, but who knows? Maybe he will stick more to cyclocross a little bit more, put some more effort into it, and race some more races, because I think that definitely is there is definitely still some talent behind him, some potential. So hopefully he can find that in the next couple of seasons.
Then it's time for a big roundup of the results of the other national championships. In Switzerland, Timon Ruek took the win ahead of Kevin Kuhn. Kuhn does not seem to have the best form at the moment. Ruek taking the title for the second year in a row. Andri Friesknecht ended third there. The women's elite title went to Alessandra Keller. Big win there, 2.5 minutes ahead of Rebecca Esterman, and Meret Zimmermann ended third there. The German national title has been returned to Marcel Meissen. Last year he somehow lost the title to Sascha Weber, but he won. The women's title went to Elisabeth Brandau. Brandau beat Judith Kral, who was the defending title. Order restored. The veterans beat the youth there. In Poland, Marek Konwa took the national title. That is also no surprise. He is the only Polish rider that does well. He had a pretty good showing this season, won a bunch of races. The women's title went to Zuzanna Kristalla. That was a close race. It came down to a sprint with Barbara Boriowiseka. Third place there went to Malwina Mull. Then the Austrian National Championships, one of the more niche, Nadja Heigl, one of the names that's a bit more known there, one of the first who went to bunny hop the barriers, took the win there ahead of Nora Fischer. The men's elite title went to Gregor Ragal, with Lucas Hatz ending second there. That was a pretty close race, no footage, so I don't really know what went on there. Denmark, no surprise, Daniel Wies Nielsen, really the best Danish cyclocross rider there. This year, no Simon Andreasen at the start there. He showed up a couple of times in the past, the former junior world champion, but Daniel Wies Nielsen took a comfortable win. This year, the women's elite title went to Anne Dort Liesbicht. In Luxembourg, there were no surprises either. Mario Schreiber took the national title ahead of Christine Majerus. The men's title, not really relevant seeing the level of the riders, but Loic Bettendorf took the national title there. Surprise in Hungary, Vanka Vas didn't take the title because she's on training camp. Janka Farkas took the Hungarian title. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll see much of that jersey in the upcoming season. Marton Dina took the men's elite title. The same goes there. I don't think we will see much of those jerseys. In Ireland, Dean Harvey took the national title on the men's elite side, while Alia Rafferty took the win on the women's elite side. Portugal also had their national championships. Roberto Ferreira took the win in the men's race, while Anne Mafalda Santos won the women's elite title. In Serbia, there was also a national championship. The women's elite title went to Bonjana Jovanovic, with Dusan Versionovic taking the men elite title. The results from Romania have not been published on the UCI website, so that leaves us with the results from Japan, where Hirji Oda took the national title, while Akari Kobayashi took the women's elite title. I think that will conclude everything for the national championships. The only national championships remaining this season are the national championships of Greece. They are taking place on the same day as the World Cup in Hogerheide. Issam, thank you for being here. Tomorrow there's racing in Otegem. Hopefully no feud between Van Toerenhout and Zweek there this year, so we can have a bit of recovery before we head to Benidorm at the end of the week.
Yes, thank you for having me. And indeed, the usual race at Wortegem, and then from there we slowly but surely go to the last couple of weeks before the World Championship. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for spending your Sunday evening talking about Cyclocross Nationals. It was a nice weekend. Thanks everyone for listening. We will be back with an episode about Benidorm next week. See you guys then. Goodbye.